guys, Laura here from What Laura Likes. So today we are going to walk through the Alabama's brand new bill, which is pretty heavy in excluding abortion. It's going to get appealed, it's going to go to the Supreme Court, but if you want to hear what I have to say about it and listen to a little bit of a walkthrough of the law, then stay tuned. Alright guys, so as requested, a few of you asked me if I was going to do a video on the new Alabama law, and so here it is. I'm going to just talk to you a bit about what is contained in the law. I'm sure that other people have been talking about this as well, but since you guys asked me to do it, here it is. It's called the Alabama Human Life Protection Act. We gotta love this. We just had New York a few months ago pass that atrocious abortion bill. This is like the other side's answer, and it's the right answer because it's recognizing that at any stage of development, a human is a human, and so we should be treating him or her as such. So it criminalizes abortion. So the first part of the Alabama bill talks about how on their books still it is considered murder to end the life of an unborn child, but of course it was unenforceable because federal law will trump state law. So yes, states have state sovereignty, but it can't conflict with federal law. So up until Roe versus Wade, some states could allow abortion, some states couldn't, and it was up to the states. Well, the federal court in Roe versus Wade said, no, we're actually going to say that it's a woman's right to choose whether to have an abortion. They came down with the 3 different tiers for first, second, third trimester. First and second are pretty much unregulated. Third trimester, the states are allowed to regulate it, but they don't have to, again, like New York. So that's why New York's law stands as good law, because Roe versus Wade gives them that freedom. However, it took away the freedom of states like Alabama to make abortion illegal. And so that's why these kinds of laws are being passed right now. It's really exciting to see. I think Missouri just passed one. Georgia passed one. I think there might be another one. And so I'll just put those all down below, the ones I can find that recently passed. And this is in response saying, because ultimately it wants the Supreme Court to take a look at Roe versus Wade and ultimately overturn it, which would be the right thing to do, because the right to privacy in the original Roe versus Wade, which I'm reading through right now, they don't even define where in the Constitution that right of privacy really came from. And if you look at the precedent of Roe versus Wade, it had to do with like interracial marriage, and then it had to do with contraception, like being able to take like birth control in your own home. And then they literally jumped to a woman also has the right to end a life, like contraceptive. It was literally like, it's like as a form of contraceptives. So it was a big leap. It was definitely advocating from the bench, which they are not allowed to do. They are only allowed to interpret law, not to make law, and they pretty much made law at that moment. So there's plenty of places to overturn Roe versus Wade. It's just someone needs to get to that point, and the Supreme Court actually has to grant certiorari, which they have the right to refuse to look at cases like almost unlimitedly. So that's a real shame. Apparently in the 1850s, the Supreme Court was overwhelmed with having to look at every single case that came before them, and so they went this other way. It was a bit too liberal because now they can just deny cert to whoever they want if they don't want to touch it. In that case, the Court of Appeals ruling will stand as the law of the land until federal law changes. That's just a quick civ pro for you right there. So the bill goes into discussing how all human beings are equal from creation as being a basis for a lot of the different laws we've dealt with, or in movements. So the anti-slavery movement, the women's suffrage movement, the Nuremberg war crimes trials, and the American Civil Rights movement. You know, equality of all human beings was a huge part of this. You know, people will say, well, it's different because people who are born, who have lives and interests and feelings and experiences outside of the womb are on a different level. But then to go to the place where you're saying that you would kill somebody who's at a different level of development or of a different level of size or in a different physical place or a different degree of dependency, like those are all continuums, and those are not adequate arguments, because we're talking about a human life in some course of development. And right now with the abortion laws, they're arbitrarily being determined at when that life in a continuation of development is allowed to be ended, to be murdered. And so we don't want to use that rationale ever when we decide about the sanctity of a life, because it could be applied, well, one, because it's just wrong, but also because it's arbitrary, and so there's nothing stopping them from saying any other area of development or any other kind of situation or whatever could be also a course for ending a life. Science has determined that at the moment of conception, that human is on the course of development, has its own DNA, it is a human being. At that moment, all law should protect that individual. Okay, so that's what this is mainly doing. So it defines abortion, and then it starts doing exclusions. It says it does not include activities if done with the intent to save the life or preserve the health of the unborn child, remove a dead unborn child, to deliver the unborn child prematurely to avoid serious health risk to the unborn child's mother, or to preserve the health of her unborn child. It also doesn't apply to those with an ectopic pregnancy or if the unborn child has a lethal anomaly. So I want to talk about that for a minute, because that actually bothers me as a Catholic. I'm sure you guys have all heard stories about people who've been told your child is going to be brain dead, your child is going to have heart failure, something along those lines, to where someone who may be really scared or unsure would say, you know, let's just have an abortion because it's legal, it's easy, or not easy, but you know what I mean? It's like so prevalent and so pushed for in our culture right now that ending a life is just kind of seen as the same as taking out a tumor, right? Well, the issue is that until that baby is actually out of the womb, we don't know the full story. There's only so much that science knows of life inside the womb. I wanted to say that, like, if a child of 2 received a lethal cancer diagnosis, then you wouldn't just end that child's life. You would allow that child to live out through their natural life and enjoy those moments with that child until that child, you know, soul departs from the body. As a mother, I would want to birth my child and to hold him or her for those moments, those hours, those days that I could, if the diagnosis was true. And then there's also something called infant hospice, who then they are allowed to give, you know, they make the baby as comfortable as possible, and then the organs are allowed to be used for other children, so as an organ donor. And that is just a beautiful gift to other families who have very sick babies who are needing the care. And so I get that as a culture that most likely some kind of exception for the life of the mother or the child is going to be there, because I understand that not everybody is in the same place with their faith walk. Now, you could argue whether or not the law should be reflecting that or not, but since we live in America, that's probably going to always be the case. So that's just my little side note on that, but it does allow for the life of the mother or the child to be able to end the life there. So there is a strange exception here for mental illness where she will engage in conduct that could result in her death or the death of her unborn child. So I don't actually get this one either, because it's like, let's kill a life in order to keep her from killing a life. I think that that's more of a situation where the mother needs to receive care up until the time of her baby's birth and not allowing a doctor to kill the baby, but that is in here. So just know that it's just a bit odd. If a mother is suicidal, you're not going to, and she's saying it's because she has children, you're not going to then go end the life of the child because she might kill herself. I mean, so these exceptions to me don't make a whole lot of sense, because again, they're kind of playing that developmental line, even though they stated that life starts at conception. So just wanted to address that really fast. So this bill says that no woman is culpable for an abortion. However, the physician is. The abortion will be a Class A felony, and then an attempted abortion is a Class C felony. The one other thing I want to say about this that's obviously been a big deal is that there is no exception for rape or incest or disabilities like Down syndrome, which there shouldn't be anyway. And I know other states have been passing, there's at least one state that passed where it's illegal to end a life based on a diagnosis of Down syndrome, thank God. So the thing about rape and incest is that although those are atrocities and terrible violence towards women, it doesn't follow that we should end innocent life. There's always adoption. Adoption should be so much easier, so much cheaper than it is. Yeah, so that's it. The ALCU of Alabama said that they're going to fight this, which makes me laugh because their slogan is justice, equality, and, you know, liberty for all, and yet we're, again, talking about a real human life here. If they stood for what they said, they would be on the pro-life side, so it's just kind of silly. So that said, if you guys have questions down below, let me know. Just please be polite. I will link all my other pro-life videos down below as well, and if there's anything else you guys want me to talk about regarding this, if you want me to download the other laws, let me know. And I just want to do a quick shout out to Trent Horn for his book, Persuasive Pro-Life. Very, very good book. It talks about the different arguments people make and the responses you can give. And so my response came out of the chapter, The Disqualifiers, chapter 7. And on page 130, it talks about the 4 arguments people make: size, level of development, environment, and degree of dependency, and how these just can't be the factors we use to end life. So that said, as always, please continue to know God, love God, and to do God's will, and I will talk to you guys again very soon. God bless, and have a beautiful day.